Hey, what is it, be sexy beast? GhostSickness Tristan here, and I'm bringing you guys another creepy story. This is the Black-Eyed Kids. It just kind of strikes me as scary because you know when you're, in your car or whatever, and then other people are trying to talk to you, or they stop, or they're in their car and they stop and try to talk to you. It's just a really, really weird experience, and I don't really enjoy those. But anyway, if you guys missed the last two creepy stories I did, they were longer, so I figured I'd do a shorter one now. But they were the No End House 1 and the No End House 2. Those are linked in the description below. As always, guys, I end on the story. I really hope you guys do check those out. And remember the fact that I love you, I'm going to get right into this. My internet service provider used to have offices in a shopping center before they moved to their comparatively lush accommodations elsewhere. There was a drop box at the original location. The monthly bill was due, and thus, there but for the grace of the net I went. It was about 9:30 p.m. when I left. From my relatively isolated apartments, it's about 10 to 15 minutes or so downtown. Abilene has a population of about 110,000. Right next to Camelot Communications' old location is a $1.50 movie theater. At the time, the place is featuring the masterwork of modern film, Mortal Kombat. I drove by the theater on the way into the center proper and pulled into an empty parking space. Using the glow of the marquee to write out my check, I was startled to hear a knock on the driver's side window of my car. I looked over and saw two children staring at me from the street. I need to describe them. With the one feature, you can guess what it is, that I didn't realize until about halfway through the conversation cleverly omitted. Both appeared to be in that semi-mystical stage of life children get into where you can't exactly tell their age. Both were boys, and my initial impression is that they were somewhere between ages 10 and 14. Boy number 1 was the spokesman. Boy number 2 didn't speak during the entire conversation, at least not in words. Boy number 1 was slightly taller than his companion, wearing a pullover, hooded shirt, with some sort of gray checked pattern in jeans. I couldn't see his shoes. His skin was olive-colored and had curly, medium-length brown hair. He exuded an air of quiet confidence. Boy number 2 had pale skin with a trace of freckles. His primary characteristic seemed to be looking around nervously. He was dressed in a similar manner to his companion, but his pullover was a light green color. His hair was a sort of pale orange. They didn't appear to be related, at least directly. Oh, great, I thought. They're gonna hit me up for money. And then the air changed. I've explained this before, but for the benefit of any new lurkers out there, right before I experience something strange, there's a change in perception that comes about which I describe in the above manner. It's basically enough time to know it's too late. So there I was, filling out a check in my car, which was still running, and in a sudden panic over the appearance of two little boys, I was confused, but an overwhelming sense of fear and unearthliness rushed in nonetheless. The spokesman smiled, and the sight for some inexplicable reason chilled my blood. I could feel fight or flight responses kicking in. Something, I knew instinctually, was not right, but I didn't know what it could possibly be. I rolled down the window very, very slightly, and asked, "Yes?" The spokesman smiled again, broader this time. His teeth were very, very white. "Hey, mister, what's up? We have a problem," he said. His voice was that of a young man, but his diction was quiet, calm, and something I just couldn't put my finger on. Made my desire to flee even greater. "You see, my friend and I wanted to see this film, but we forgot our money," he continued. "We need to go to our house to get it. Want to help us out?" Okay, journalists are required to talk to lots of people, and that includes children. I've seen and spoken to lots of them. Here's how the conversation usually goes. Mister? Can I see that camera? I won't break it or anything, I promise. My dad has a camera and he lets me hold it sometimes, I guess. And I took a picture of my dog. It wasn't very good, because I got my finger in it in the way and, add in some feet shuffling and or body swaying, and you've got a typical kid talking to a stranger. In short, they're usually apologetic. People generally treat children that when they talk to adults, they're usually bothering them for one reason or another, and that they should at least be polite. This kid was in no way fitting the mold. His command of language was incredible, and he showed no signs of fear. He spoke as if my help was a foregone conclusion. When he grinned, it was as if he was trying to say, "I know something, and you're not gonna like it. But the only way you're going to find out what it is will be to do what I say." Well, was the best reply I could offer. Now here's when it starts to get strange. The quiet companion looked at the spokesman with a mixture of confusion and guilt on his face. He seemed in some way shocked, not with his friend's brusque manner, but that I didn't just immediately open the door. He eyed me nervously. The spokesman seemed a bit perturbed too. I was still registering something wrong with both. "Come on, mister," the spokesman said again, smooth as silk. Car salesman could learn something from this kid. "Now, We just want to go to the house, and we're just two little boys. That really scared me. Something in the tone and diction set off my alarm bells. My mind was frantically trying to process what it was perceiving about the two figures that was wrong. Was all I could manage. I felt myself digging my fingernails into the steering wheel. What movie are you going to see? I finally asked. Mortal Kombat, of course, the spokesman said. The silent one nodded in affirmation, standing a few paces behind. Oh, I said. I stole a quick glance at the marquee and the clock in my car. Mortal Kombat had been playing for an hour, the last showing of the evening. The silent one looked increasingly nervous. I think he saw my glances and suspected that I might be detecting something that was not above board. Come on, mister. Let us in. We can't get in your car until you do, you know, the spokesman said soothingly. Just let us in, and we'll be gone before you know it. We'll go to our mother's house. We locked eyes. To my horror, I realized my hand had strayed towards the door knock, which was engaged, and was in the process of opening it. I pulled away, probably a bit too violently, but it did force me to look away from the children. I turned back, I offered weakly, and then the mind snapped into sharp focus. For the first time, I noticed their eyes. They were coal black. No pupil, no iris, just two staring orbs reflecting the red and white light of the marquee. At that point, I knew my expression betrayed me. The silent one had a look of horror on his face, and a combination that seemed to indicate A, the impossible had just happened, and B, we've been found out. The spokesman, on the other hand, wore a mask of anger. His eyes glittered brightly in the half-light. Come on, mister, he said. We won't hurt you. You have to let us in. We don't have a gun. The last statement scared the living hell out of me, because at that point his tone was clearly saying, we don't need a gun. He noticed my hand shooting down towards the gear shift. The spokesman's final words continued in anger, and that was complete and whole, and yet contained in some respects a tone of panic. We can't come in unless you tell us it's okay. Let us in. I ripped my car into reverse, thank goodness no one was coming up behind me, and tore out of the parking lot. I noticed the boys in my peripheral vision, and I stole a quick glance back. They were gone. The sidewalk by the theater was deserted. I drove home in a frightened state of panic. Had anyone attempted to stop me, I would have run on and faced the consequences later. I bolted into my house, scanning all around, including the sky. What did I see? Maybe nothing more than a few kids looking for a ride. And then some really funky contacts. Yeah, right.